You may be seated. Things have changed a lot since I was a kid. There were no computers or cell phones, and when it was time for you to come in and eat, your mom didn't call you on your cell. She yelled your name at the back door. We played outdoors a lot too. Everyone knew everyone in the neighborhood, kids and parents. Back then, moms were home with their children in the afternoons, and they not only kept an eye on their kids, but on everyone else's too. Let me tell you, it wasn't easy to get away with anything because everyone else's mother had an eye on you as well. And there were a lot of children on our street and in our neighborhood. There was a Nancy, 2 Debbies, several Susans, and several Kathys. But I was the only Martha. So when it got close to supper and our moms all came out the door and yelled for us that it was time to come in, I didn't have any excuse for not hurrying on in. The Debbies, now they had to listen really closely to see which of their mamas was calling them, but not me. I was the only Martha. There was a girl my age who lived on my street whose name was Marita Perhax. That kind of sounds like Martha, but her mother was from Venezuela, and when she called her, it was Marita. No way I ever thought it was my mom calling me to eat when Miss Perhax called Marita. So think back to the many times your parents called you when you were young. Maybe they were calling you to stop hitting your younger brother or sister, or calling you to the telephone because you were beginning to get phone calls, or telling you it was time to brush your teeth and go to bed. You knew that when either of your parents called, you were to stop whatever you were doing and come quickly. And you could tell by the tone of their voice if you were in trouble or not. I quickly knew I was in trouble when my mother used my middle name. Martha Elizabeth, come here. I remember one time my 2nd grade class had gone on a field trip to a farm. Now there were 25 7-year-olds running all over the place with lots of parents along in tow as chaperones. My friend and I were walking out ahead of everybody up to the barn to watch a man milk a cow, which we thought was really cool. And when I heard a voice say, "Don't move," well, I grabbed my friend's arm and held her back as a copperhead wiggled its way across the path 2 feet in front of us. I knew the voice was talking to me because I had heard it lots before, and I knew that it loved me and wanted to protect me. You know, the other kids there probably never heard her say, "Don't move," but I did, because it was my mom's voice, and I was cued into it. And because I trusted her, I automatically did what she said without even thinking, which kept me and my friends safe. Our gospel lesson today is about knowing the voice that is calling to you and following it. It's about trust, not blind trust, but trust that is born out of love. We are more familiar with the first part of the 10th chapter of John, where Jesus compares himself to the gate of the sheepfold and then to the good shepherd. Jesus says that a hired hand won't risk his life for his sheep, but a shepherd who owns and cares for the sheep will lay down his life for his flock. In John 10:14 through 16, Jesus says, "I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. And I lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep that do not belong to this fold. I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice. So there will be one flock, one shepherd." Now just think, Jesus is saying this to Jews who are supposedly God's chosen people. It divides them and confounds them. There's another flock? They must come too? Who is he talking about? Those scum, the Samaritans up north? Or God forbid, do you think he's talking about those heathens, the Gentiles? Some think that Jesus is a madman possessed by a demon, and they want to write him off as crazy and not listen to what he's saying. Others realize that Jesus is crazy like a fox, and that a demon wouldn't say such things or do all the miracles that Jesus has done, like the healing of the blind man in the chapter before, chapter 9. So our reading today jumps ahead just a little bit in time. Jesus is walking in the temple portico in December during the Feast of Dedication, or what you and I know today as Hanukkah. The Jews surround him and they're trying to entrap him. Tell us outright if you are the Messiah. To which Jesus responds, I've told you, and you do not believe. The works that I do in my Father's name testify to me, but you do not believe because you do not belong to my sheep. My sheep hear my voice. I know them, and they follow me. I give them eternal life, and they will never perish. No one will snatch them out of my hand. The Father and I are one. Now, to a devout Jew, saying that you are one with God is pure blasphemy, punishable by death. So they pick up stones and pull them back and get ready to throw them at Jesus. But Jesus' words stop them before they can throw even the first stone. And then the Jews tried to arrest him, but he slipped through their fingers, and he leaves Judea and the Jews behind him and crosses the Jordan River and is in the land of the Gentiles, where John had baptized. And the Gentiles realized that what John the Baptist had said about Jesus was true. Jesus is even greater than John. And it concludes by saying, and many believe in him there. You know, as I thought about this passage, several things came to mind. First, in our society, we don't want to be sheep. Sheep will follow their leader off a cliff. They wander off, go rogue, and put the rest of the flock at risk when the shepherd has to go in search of the separated one. Mamby-pamby comes to mind when I think of sheep. They don't bring up images of independence, which our society cherishes. When a friend of mine preached on this passage at church with the lay preaching group we belong to, she walked to the pulpit and put up a handmade mask of a sheep's face. And then she moved it to one side to reveal another handmade mask of a sheep's face with a red diagonal line through it like Ghostbusters. And she said, I hate sheep. They are so sheepish. Well, everyone laughed, but she got the point across. Sheep are meant to be sheepish. They're meant to follow the one they trust, their shepherd. Folks, it may not be cool, but we are sheep, and we are to follow our shepherd. As Christians today, there will be pushback from society and from other shepherds who want us to follow them instead of the good shepherd. Jesus calls the others the destroyers and the hired hands. They are only in the shepherding business for their own gain, not out of love for their flock. Beware these false shepherds. Be cautious about who or what you are following. Second, there is a sequence here that is repeated several times in chapter 10. My sheep hear my voice. I know them. They follow me. At the beginning of the chapter, Jesus says, the one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep hear his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all of his own, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. They will not follow a stranger because they do not know his voice, and they will run from him. Because the sheep are dearly loved by the shepherd, they are much more than just meat for the table or wool for his robes. The shepherd names each and every sheep. He knows them so well that each is unique to him. After all, he spends all his time with them up in the hills. The sheep have learned to trust the shepherd because he has provided them good green pasture upon which to graze, still water from which to drink. The shepherd helped bring them into the world, and he will be by their side when they leave this world. He has cared for them, guided them, protected them, rescued them, and risked his life looking for the wayward one that wandered off. Those sheep that belong to the good shepherd trust him because of how he has cared for them. They follow him, but they don't follow him blindly. They follow him because they know him. A question to ask ourselves is, how well do we know the Good Shepherd? Jesus knows who we are, but then are you the little white lamb with the brown spot on its leg? Or are you Sam or Susie, who loves to be near and spend time with the one who loves you so very much? We are part of his flock, and we didn't do anything to belong to him. But the depth of our love and trust can grow as we seek out time with the Good Shepherd. So trust begets following, and following begets obedience. If the sheep follow the shepherd, they are guaranteed to be safe, well-fed, and well-watered. In other words, they will have everything that they could ever need. A little boy wanted to learn to say the 23rd Psalm for his grandmother when she came to visit. He practiced it with his mama. When his grandmother came, he said, "Nana, I can say the 23rd Psalm." He had a big grin on his face, then he hesitated, and then he started, "The Lord is my shepherd." And then his eyes got wide as saucers, and a look of fear came over his face. And then he recovered himself and he said, "That's all I need to know." He had forgotten, but no truer words were ever spoken. You know, obedience is really not easy for me. I want to be independent. I want to prove I can do it myself. I often think I know what's best. Having lived in an alcoholic marriage for 28 years, with a husband who was such a gentle lamb when he was sober, but a wolf in sheep's clothing when he was drunk, who demanded obedience or would rage and be verbally and emotionally abusive, obedience plain scares me. I struggle with it every day. But the more I spend time with my Good Shepherd, I grow to trust him more and more. And obedience to his call and commands has gotten easier as I see that day after day, for 57 years, almost 58, he is only trying to keep me safe, lead me to green pastures, and beside still waters. In the 70s, when I was a teenager in my Baptist youth group, we sang a Ralph Carmichael song called The New 23rd. His paraphrase of the 23rd Psalm is so beautiful, and it's always stuck with me, particularly because of the opening line. Because the Lord is my shepherd, I have everything that I need. Time after time, God through Christ has proven this to be true. I follow Jesus because I know he loves me and will take care of me. I'd like to close by sharing the words to that song with you. Because the Lord is my shepherd, I have everything that I need. He lets me rest in meadows green and leads me beside the quiet stream. He keeps on giving life to me and helps me to do what honors him the most. Even when walking through the dark valley of death, I will never be afraid, for he is close beside me. Guarding, guiding all the way, he spreads a feast before me. In the presence of my enemies, he welcomes me as his special guest. With blessings overflowing, his goodness and unfailing kindness shall be with me all the days of my life, and I will live with him forever in his home. My sheep hear my voice. I know them. They follow me. Amen.